Hey guys, it's Haley and welcome to another bookish video. Today I'm going to be doing a recent reads video. I've actually never done one of these videos before, but that's because I have consistently posted a wrap-up every single month that I've been on BookTube, except for the past few months. So I never had an opportunity to do this because I always wrapped up every month with my monthly stats, every book that I read. But now, because my life got so crazy at the end of 2022, I have quite a few books that I haven't talked about and given full reviews in a video like a wrap-up. I did not post an October wrap-up and a December wrap-up because those were two of the just craziest months of the year for me. I'm a therapist, and at the end of the year, that's when everyone is, in their seasonal depression vibe. Holidays are coming up. It's a lot going on with family. So I had to show up for my clients, and I didn't have the time to dedicate to a wrap up. I also did a lot of daily vlogging during those months. So you can go back and watch those if you want, but I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read in those vlogs in this video. So if you didn't watch them, you can have the full review now. I'm not going to go over the books that I felt like I've talked about to death or that were on my best and worst book videos. These are kind of the tweeners, okay? We're going to talk about the in-between books. I do have some 5 stars in here, but mostly 4, 3.5, and 3-star rated books that I read over the past few months and I just haven't told you about yet. I want to get all of the reviews for my 2022 books up and done so we can go into 2023 fresh. So I have a massive stack over here and I'm just going to go through it randomly. This video is not going to be organized in the slightest, but I can tell you that you're going to be getting 22 book reviews. Mostly, for the most part, they are horror and thriller books, but I do have some romance and contemporaries thrown in there as well. We're gonna start out with the plot just because it's on the top of the stack. This is by Jean Homf Corliss, and I randomly picked this book up in December because I had the audio on hold from my library and it finally came in and I just wanted to read it. It didn't really go with my holiday reading, but I'm very glad that I impulsively picked it up because this is one that was a sleeper pick for my best books of the year at the end of 2022. I thought it was such an easy 5-star. It was so engaging. This is a thriller that's all about blackmail. So if you don't like blackmail thrillers, this might not be for you. It's also slower paced and with an academia kind of setting. So I know I've recommended this a lot and people aren't liking it. Just know that there are caveats before going in, but I really like all of those elements, so I really enjoyed this. We're following a professor who hears this amazing plot idea from one of his students, and he's pissed. He's like, oh no, this dude doesn't even have to be a good writer. Like, this plot is so phenomenal. He's gonna get published either way, and this book is gonna be a sensation. Well, he finds out that that student dies before he can write the book, so he takes the plot into his own hands, but trouble is afoot when someone figures out what he's done and starts blackmailing him over it. I loved the way that this plot was structured.
It's the plot.
So it needed to have a good plot itself, and it did. And in alternating chapters, we're reading this so-called crazy plot. Honestly, I didn't think it was that crazy. I don't think it would be an instant bestseller if that was just the book, but it was entertaining, and I did like the dual story kind of book within a book thing. I love that. I'm such a sucker for that. Also, I'm a sucker for a book about people who write or authors or books in general. I loved the twists, although I did predict one. It didn't take away from my enjoyment at all because I just loved the fake pretentious air about this book. Okay, this book could read really pretentious. You have to know that it's satire. It is over the top, it is hyperbolic, it's commentary on academia. And that's the kind of thing that I loved about Bunny by Mona Awad, and this book really took me back there. I loved it. Next up, we have one that's more of a disappointment. This is a YA horror book, and that is Clown in the Cornfield 2, Friendo Lives by Adam Caesar. This book was so disappointing to me. I believe I gave it 2 stars. I absolutely loved the first Clown in a Cornfield book. Even though it's YA, it really brought the gore. It was just like a classic slasher about killer clowns. And if there's one thing I'm down for 100% of the time, it is that. This one, though, did not give slasher to me. There was a lot more gun violence in this one than actual like horror slashing, and it was just a little too real. There was a lot of commentary that felt a little bit forced. Honestly, this book felt like I was watching the news more than like reading a fun, campy slasher, which is what I was in the mood for. So maybe this is just not for me. Maybe I read it at the wrong time. But if that sounds like something that you would feel similar to me about, you can skip this one. The first one, though, is great. Jumping into my first like wintry themed read of this video, there are going to be a lot in here since I'm wrapping up my December reads. We have Silent Night by R.L. Stine. This is a Fear Street book, and I loved reading this one. I was obsessed with it. I can't remember if I gave it 5 or 4.5 out of 5 stars, but I was obsessed. We are following this catty, hyperbolic, again, just like over the top character. She is this mean girl. She does not care about anyone, and she's this little prissy rich girl. It was so fun to read from her like toxic rich girl perspective, and she has a lot of enemies. You know, she's not really nice to anyone. So when she starts getting these vicious pranks done to her, it really could be anyone. And we're reading, trying to figure out who is doing this. And when murders start to happen, we feel like, oh my gosh, things are escalating. Oh my gosh, it's just so entertaining. I am so into Fear Street now that I dove back into this one. I want to revisit these books from my childhood because I could not believe how much fun I had reading this book. If you're thinking about revisiting Fear Street or Goosebumps books, I highly recommend it. I'm definitely going to be doing that in 2023. And I might as well just wrap up the other Fear Street book that I read in December, and that was a Fear Street Super Chiller, which is the New Year's Party by R.L. Stine as well. And this is actually a first edition that I found on Pango Books. I am so excited to have it. It's so cute. I love these like vintagey kind of covers. I love that it's a first edition. I had so much fun reading this one as well. I believe I rated this 3.5 or 4 out of 5 stars. It was around there. It wasn't as great as Silent Night, but it was interesting and I loved the twist. Honestly, these books kind of be catching me by surprise. I'm like, okay, R.L. Stine, some of these twists in these middle grade and YA books are better than like traditionally published adult thrillers. Can I just say that? I feel like these books are not overthought, and that's what I loved about this one. I read it really quick in the few hours before I went to a New Year's Eve party, so the vibes were right. And this is another one about like pranks turned deadly at a New Year's party and someone who wants to get revenge as well. A lot of like teen drama in this one, but it was so entertaining to me. I loved it. So yeah, I'm in my Fear Street era for sure in 2023. But jumping back into adult horror, we have Just Like Mother by Anne Heltzel. I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars in October. This is one of the only cult books that I have actually really enjoyed. I feel like most of the time cult books are really repetitive and really boring. Like, I don't like reading about that compound life, okay? You're not out here, you're not doing anything, there's no drama, you're just like cooking corn soup and feeding the children, and there's some manipulative narcissistic man who's knocking people up and like praising God and like being God. I don't like cults, okay? I don't like reading about that, but this one got me. I feel like it's because the women in this book were not just victims of a cult, they were in the higher ups, okay? So we're following a girl and her cousin who escaped a cult as children, but now are being sucked back in. I think you should go in only knowing that, nothing more, because you're gonna go on the ride of your life. This book was so fast paced, and I never feel that from cult books, so this is truly an outlier. Also this cover, like, hello, the baby eyes. I'm literally terrified. Next up, we have Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, and I gave this book 3 stars. I ended up enjoying it okay, but it was just nothing super standout gorgeous to me. I can't wait to watch the show. That's why I read it, so I could watch the show, because I'd heard so many great things about it. And it was okay. It's an apocalyptic book, and I don't love apocalypse content, but for being an apocalypse book, I thought it was great. I've definitely enjoyed this a lot more than other apocalyptic things that I've read, and we're basically following what happens to the world post a deadly pandemic that leaves us like in shambles. All the cities are done, like people are just living in factions. And this traveling symphony wants to keep art alive in this like post-apocalyptic world. So they travel around to all these little settlements throughout the country and perform. And we're just following a lot of different characters as we're doing that. It's really character driven. It's really slow. It is beautifully written, but it's just not my thing, y'all. Like, I can appreciate it for what it is, but it's just not my thing. On a very, very similar note, we have The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon.
I know myself.
Yeah, can I just say that? Can I just say that I know myself? I was resistant to picking up this book because I knew that I was not gonna love it. I knew just hearing things about it that it wasn't gonna 100% connect with me, and I was right. Okay, I listened to y'all who loved it and enjoyed it, and I'm so happy for you if you loved it and enjoyed it, but for me, this is just one that's not for me. I gave it 3 stars because it was fine. Again, it was enjoyable. I didn't hate my time reading it, but it was nothing special to me. This is a horror book that is dual timeline. One takes place in present day, one is way back in the day, following the people who lived in the house in 1908. Okay, so this is historical. I don't love that. It was also paranormal vibes, and I usually don't love that either. But we're following a girl in present day and a girl in the past living in this house, and one of them was murdered, and one of them suspects that her mother is murdered. So we're trying to figure out who killed him, what happened to these women, what's going on. I just didn't really care. I don't love historical stuff. I wasn't super invested in the characters. It was just very like, meh, next. But it wasn't bad. Next up, we have a 5-star read if there ever was one. This, I'm so sad that I filmed my best books of the year before I read this video. I believe I read this one on the 29th or the 30th of December, so I haven't talked about this at all, but it is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I hope I said that name right, but I absolutely loved this book. This is one of those like contemporary emotional reads, kind of like Station 11, but this is much more suited to my taste because it's fast-paced, it's not super flowery writing, but it's still gorgeous, and there's that little magical realism element in there that I love, and it has to do with time travel. And if you know anything about me, you know I love time travel. I love time travel in my books so much. So I'm obsessed with this one. It is the first book in a series, which I'm currently reading the 3rd book in the series. Every single book follows little tiny vignettes that happen in this cafe. And this cafe is very special because there's one chair in the cafe where if you sit in it, you can time travel. You can go in the future or you can go in the past. You can only stay there though until your coffee gets cold. If you don't drink all your coffee before it gets cold, you will be rocketed back into the past, and that's it. That's all the time that you get. So we see all these different people and how they use this gift of time travel in different ways, going to the past, going to the future, repairing relationships, working out things. It's very almost like self-help vibes. Like it feels very therapeutic and very warm, and the characters are funny and quirky and just heartwarming. I love this book so much. I truly cannot recommend it enough. Jumping back into thrillers, we have A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham, which I read for my Pretty Girl book club over on Patreon in the month of December. And we had a really fun discussion about this book. About half of us loved it and about half of us absolutely despised it. I fell on the love it side. I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was so much fun. We are following a psychologist who experienced this summer when she was a child where all of these girls were going missing and coming up dead. And her father actually confessed to the murders. But now, 20 years later, other girls in her community are going missing, turning up dead, and it feels like a copycat killer on the 20th anniversary of these crimes. She has her own therapeutic practice. She's about to get married. She has a lot of shit going on in her life, okay? I am completely connected because that is currently what I'm going through too. And on top of all of that, she has to rehash all this stuff from the past, figure out if her dad gave a false confession or if there's a copycat killer out there or if the real killer's back. Who's killing these girls? Is she next? It's so fun, so exciting, so fast-paced. I did guess the big twist on like chapter 2. That's the only thing. I knew who the murderer was, chapter 2. That's why I couldn't give it a 5-star, because if that didn't happen, I would have easily given it a 5-star. Unfortunately, it did. However, it didn't take away from my enjoyment, which did surprise me, but I still recommend this, especially if you're a beginner to reading thrillers. If you're a beginner to the genre, this is gonna shock the fuck out of you. This is gonna leave you shook. You're gonna have a new favorite book. Next up, let's talk about Where the Truth Lies by Anna Bailey. This was a little small town thriller that also follows the disappearance of a teenage girl. And we're going through the town, kind of like doing little interviews and getting all the town gossip to figure out what possibly happened to her, whose fault was it, and along the way, we're uncovering these dark secrets that the town has been holding for generations. That sounds really exciting. I think I made it sound really good because this book was actually not that great. The commentary was a little tired. I had heard it before. The story structure has been done. Like, it was just like, meh, okay, I'm getting through it. I'm not having a bad time, but I was like kind of bored, wasn't really shocked. It was all right for me. I believe I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars. It was just average. This is average. If you have never read a book like this before, I think you would love it. I think there's a chance that this could be a favorite for you. But me, I've seen it. All right, let me throw in an extreme horror for you. I want to talk about Lovesick by John Athan. I freaking loved this book. It is crazy. Hear me when I say this is extreme horror, okay? Graphic violence. It's fucked up. It's depraved. It is gross. It is everything I love to read about and everything I wanted it to be. This is about a man who is obsessed with his girlfriend. Not just like, oh, honeymoon phase. No, he's obsessed with her to the point where he's afraid that someone's going to take her from him. And that can't happen. So he locks her in an apartment and tortures her. And we are reading that in this book. It is graphic torture. It is some gore and torture methods that I've literally never read about, and I've read quite a bit of extreme horror at this point. So I give John Athan props for that. It was just absolutely wild. Also, I love that the person engaging in the torture and the depravity is not framed as like this lovable character. I hate when extreme horror books do that. It's like, yes, we're reading this to be entertained with gore, but also we shouldn't be glorifying this in any way. Like, I don't know. I think extreme horror it's a very hard balance to find, and John Athan does so well at finding it. I cannot wait to read more from this author in 2023. I already have one on my Kindle on deck that I'm gonna hopefully start in the next couple of weeks because I've been craving some extreme horror and I just love his writing so much. So if you're into extreme horror and you want to read like Joe Goldberg, but taken to an extreme level, you're gonna love Lovesick. Next up, let's talk about Crossroads by Laurel Hightower. I picked up this teeny tiny horror novella after reading Below by Laurel Hightower and really loving it. That was one of my favorites of the year. This one I didn't love as much, but I still really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. This has a lot of grief horror in it. It is very, very, very heavy. So if you're going through grief or that would be something that's triggering for you right now, definitely would not recommend picking this up. It's about a mom who loses her son, and she believes that she can visit him in some way. She can have contact with him even though he's passed on, and she's trying to find a way to bring him back permanently. That's all I'm going to give you because it is so tiny. It's easy to spoil it and give away the entire synopsis of the book. So go in with that. Go in knowing that it's grief horror and you can appreciate it for what it is. I definitely did, but this isn't a fun book. Okay, this is emotional, it's heavy, gorgeous writing, really effective horror, but it's a lot, okay? It's a lot. Another winter read was Near the Bone by Christina Henry, and I actually read this physically, but I loved it so much that I immediately gave it to my mom. Over Christmas break, I was like, you have to read this. This was such an easy 5-star for me. It's about a woman who is living in this isolated cabin with her husband, boyfriend, person, whatever, and they are just isolated. Like, there's no one around them. There's just snow, and that's all you can see. But they think that there's someone out there in the woods stalking them, or maybe something. And as this monster starts stalking them, you realize what that's kind of a metaphor for. I loved the writing. It was so fast-paced, so intense. Loved the metaphor. There are trigger warnings in this book for an abusive relationship though, so just look out for that, but I loved it. Cannot sing its praises enough. Okay, we still have 8 more books. My God, this is taking me forever. I'm gonna stop giving y'all such in-depth reviews and just like rapid fire it. Let's go. Secret Santa by Andrew Schaefer. This was a short little novella about a girl who starts working at a new publishing company after hers goes under, and she gets a creepy Secret Santa gift, and then a Final Destination thing starts happening where all these people at the publishing house start getting taken out in weird ways. We're trying to figure out the murderer, what's going on, is it some force that has to do with her gift? It was fun, it was entertaining, I loved the writing, it was funny. It was horror. It was Christmassy. If you're looking for a Christmas horror book, this is great. We Are All the Same in the Dark by Julia Heberlin. I gave this one 4 stars. It is another small town thriller about missing girls. Some went missing in the past, some went missing now, and we have a dual timeline trying to figure out what happened to both of them. Can you tell that that's the type of plot that interests me? This is like the 4th one that has that structure. I thought it was really well written. I didn't predict it. It was a great thriller. I had a good time reading it. 4 stars. The Shuddering by Anya Alborn. This is a wintry slasher, but it was not at all what I was expecting because it is definitely more creature feature than slasher. It is that isolated setting, but the characters were so insufferable. I had to give this, I believe, 3 stars. And you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I really want to give it 2 because it was just so insufferable. I did not really have fun reading this book, and that's what I wanted out of this book. So it didn't quite meet that for me. That's sad because I love Anya Alborn so much. I will read anything she writes, but this one just did not hit. Big disappointment. Along the same vein of that snowy, isolated horror, we have Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell. This one was a 5-star for me. What I wanted from this is what this gave me. If you're only going to read 1 out of the 2, highly suggest Stolen Tongues. This is about a couple who stay at this isolated cabin in the snow, and they have some creepy experiences, and they bring home a creature with them that starts to torment them. And especially the wife, she is like speaking in tongues to this creature as it's outside the house. It is literally horrifying. I have not read a horror book that scared me this much. Like, I was actually physically and emotionally scared in forever. I was looking over my shoulder. I was scared to turn off the lights at night. Like, Cameron had to go around and check the doors and the lights because this book scared me so much. And y'all know me. I do not get scared by horror anymore. I have seen it all. I've read it all. Extreme horror, read it in my sleep. But this something about it. I loved it. Lucky Girl by M. Ricketts. This is a little teensy tiny horror novella about Krampus. It kind of gave me Knives Out vibes. It was like a better version of Nothing But Blackened Teeth, where all these people come together. They're like old friends. They all have drama, and we're seeing a murder unfold, trying to figure out what's going on, who done it. It was so fun, so twisty. If you're looking for a short Christmas horror, pick this one up next year for all the Krampus vibes. Loved it. I believe I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. The Mother Next Door by Tara Laskowski. I loved this one. This was our group read for Happy Hailey-ween, the readathon that I hosted in October. It takes place on Halloween night, and we are just following this Big Little Lies-esque group of suburban moms and all their drama. It's just but it's not annoying like the Shuddering. These characters are actually like fun and interesting. Their drama was intriguing and juicy to me. I ate it up, okay? It's a suburban thriller. All the moms are looking out their windows talking shit about each other, and then a murder happens. Made for me. The Troop by Nick Cutter. I believe I gave this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. Maybe I gave it 5 stars. I don't quite remember. But I think if I give it 5 stars, I'm going to amend that right now and say this is a 4.5 star book, okay? It didn't 100% get there for me. I think it was a little long, a little dense with the writing, but the horror was there, okay? This is about a Boy Scout troop that encounters a terrifyingly disgusting man on a camping trip, and he gives a disease to the troop, and we watch it go through and wreak havoc on this group of boys. It was a crazy twist that I really enjoyed in there, and it also had very effective body horror. I couldn't eat pasta for like 2 weeks after I read this, and pasta's my favorite food, so that was a little sad. But overall, everything you've heard about this one is true, okay? The horror's great, the twist is great, it's all great. Just wasn't my favorite thing I've ever read. Dark Harvest by Norman Partridge. I believe I gave this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was above average. I liked the like pumpkin head creature that is going through the town slashing and killing people. It definitely had strong like cozy, spooky Halloween vibes, which is what I wanted. This was one of my first reads of October, and it definitely served that purpose. I just don't think I would pick it up again. If you're wanting to prioritize really great Halloween-y books for October, this isn't one that you need. Is it nice? Yeah. Did I hate it? No. But is it essential? Nah. The Cotton Candy Massacre by Christopher Robertson was another one that I read in October for Halloween, and this one was an absolute hit. This was an easy 5-star. I freaking loved it. It's super, super gory, and it has that like little magical realism element in the slasher story, and it's set at a carnival. Those are all of the things, all the like tropes to suck me in. Basically, there was a horrifying massacre at this carnival years ago. It got shut down. Now it's being reopened in present day, and the massacre is repeating itself. The spirits of the people who were there the first time around are coming back and exacting their revenge. We follow all these different characters as they try to not get slashed. The gore is great. It's fun. It's entertaining. Loved the characters. I could not ask for more from this one. This is an essential read if you love carnival slashers. And y'all know that's like my favorite sub genre. Any slashing that's being done at a carnival, sign me up. I want to be there. Honestly, if that's the way that I got taken out, is like a cleaver to the skull at Six Flags, I'm fine with that. And the final book that I still haven't talked to you about from 2022 is Rivals, which is a YA romance. Kind of does not go with the vibe of every other book that I talk about in this video, but I'm addicted to the American Royal series. It is just so juicy and drama and fluffy and fun and sweet and emotional. It's just like all the things, all the good feelings. When I'm in the mood for a feel-good book, on the off chance that I am, instead of like something like extreme horror, this is the series I'm gonna go for. I'm so excited for the 4th book to come out. I'm just obsessed with this series. We are following the royal family of America. What it would be like if George Washington was the king of America instead of our first president, and we're following his descendants in present day, and it's just all this royal family drama and tea. I really loved the way that this 3rd book played out, even though the end kind of made me mad. One of my least favorite characters, I'm like, die, bitch, literally die. If you like this series, then you probably know what I'm talking about. I have controversial opinions on this one. I'm a Daphne stan. I am a Daphne stan for life. I'm a Daphne apologist, okay? I love her. But these books are just so fun. I gave this one 5 stars. It was just such an enjoyable time. I read it so fast. I had emotions, but they weren't too much. They weren't overwhelming. It wasn't draining. This just like gave me the feeling of I want to read. I want to pick up that book. So with that, those are all of the books that I still had yet to review for you from 2022. I cannot wait to jump into reads from 2023 because I've already read 5 books and it is January 12th. So I already have some good ones to tell you about. And I promise I'm going to stay on my wrap-up game, so I'm not going to have to do another recent read video like this. But regardless, I hope you enjoyed this video and got a couple recommendations from me. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it to this point, leave me a heart emoji down below, your favorite one. I don't care which. I'm just already excited for Valentine's Day in less than a month, so put your favorite heart emoji down below. And like this video if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And don't forget to go to therapy and read a book this week. I will see you in my next video. Bye!